Good evening. Good evening. Okay. So thank you all for joining today. This is for the Colorado 119 Safety, Mobility, and Bikeway Project. This is a public webinar to go over some project updates, some more updates than what we presented to you last winter. And this presentation is also going to be provided in Spanish, and I'm going to open the interpretation channel. After Elena, you can give that introduction in Spanish.
Muchas gracias. Este webinar va a tener interpretación simultánea. Para acceder a la interpretación, favor de buscar el globo terráqueo, el icono del globo terráqueo abajo en la pantalla, hace clic y escoge español. Y si tiene cualquier problema, por favor, mande algo en el chat y le vamos a atender. Gracias.
Okay, so I have opened the interpretation channel, so you should be able to see the global link below if you need this presentation in Spanish. Just some quick housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded. We're going to put the recording on the website for those who were unable to attend. They could get the information. You can use the Q&A feature to ask questions. We're going to have a pretty long Q&A at the end of this presentation. And again, if you need Spanish interpretation, click the globe at the bottom. At this point, I'll hand it over to Dan at CDOT.
All right, thank you, Katie, and thank you again to everyone for joining us tonight. My name is Dan Marcucci. I'm the project director for CDOT on this project. We'll go through the agenda. I'll start with an overview of the entire project. RTD will join us for a BRT update. Boulder County will join us for bikeway updates at 63rd and 4 Mile Canyon Creek. And then I'll come back and walk through some construction impacts. And we'll have Q&A at the end. Next slide. Again, so here's our project team. Again, I'm Dan Marcucci with the CDOT project engineer, our project director. You can see our CDOT team on the screen there, and then our Boulder County RTD and City of Longmont partners through, somebody's not seeing the slide, Katie, but I'll keep going until someone tells me to stop it. So there's our project team. Next slide. Just rounding out the project team is our design team of Muller Engineering, our contractor, Kramer North America, and then our owner's representative is RS&H. They're a construction support firm that is doing our materials testing and inspection. Next slide. Here are our agencies and stakeholders that are involved. CDOT is the project owner. We have funding partners, RTD, Boulder County, and the City of Longmont. And key stakeholders throughout the project have been and will be the City of Boulder, Commuting Solutions, and Boulder Chamber Transportation Connections. We'll go back in time a little bit for a little history on the project. Going back about 10 years to 2013, 2014 with the North Area Mobility Study, or NAMS as we call it for short. This study identified several highways in the North area here that were primed for transit expansion, transit enhancements. Really the biggest priority identified was that 119 corridor between Boulder and Longmont. Next slide. RTD then took the next step in about 2018 or 19 with the BRT study, bus rapid transit study, that quickly evolved into a PEL, which is planning and environmental linkage study. Really, it's a planning level document that does do a deep dive into environmental impacts to look for those type of red flags or showstoppers. This PEL effort did establish the vision for the corridor. It had a full slate of projects along the corridor from downtown Boulder to downtown Longmont and everything in between. It had a total cost then estimated of 330 to 360 million. For reference, our current project is about 165 million, so we're less than half of the way there to the total. But part of the PEL was setting out a plan to do this thing as funding became available, phasing in over time. So really, we're doing a big piece of it right now, and it's the first piece in a larger puzzle. Next slide. That takes us to our project directly, our project specifically on the diagonal, or the trunk as we call it. The number one challenge we faced on this job was safety. This corridor represents the highest crash corridor for motorists in Boulder County and the second highest crash corridor for bicyclists in Boulder County. So there's an immediate and long-term need for safety improvements. The numbers on the screen are a few years old now, and unfortunately they have gone up. We do feel that our design will bring those numbers down in the future. We have improved standards we're designing to better design. We project that over the next 20 years we can reduce almost 400 accidents in the corridor, and we expect to eliminate nearly all the bicycle accidents as we shift that cycle traffic to our new commuter bikeway in the median. Next slide. Mobility was another challenge that we were trying to address on this project. Really, a main goal of this project was mobility improvement. Some of the challenges we faced were no direct bikeway connection across the corridor. I'll get into details, but we are going to implement a commuter bikeway down the median from Boulder to Longmont. Bus transit, the challenge there was the Bolt service can be slow and it can be unreliable at times. So to address that, we're implementing new BRT system that will cut those transit times in half and increase our ridership significantly. Finally, traffic is ever increasing. We anticipate a 25% increase in traffic by 2040, and we know that we can't necessarily build our way out of that traffic congestion. So trying to use smart growth, that means we're trying to encourage mode shifting to the bus or to the cycle using the bikeway, and also trying to use technology to help manage our traffic at the intersections. We're implementing adaptive signals along the corridor, which actually can learn traffic patterns and adjust automatically, and it can be adjusted from afar too more easily. Next slide. Here is just an overview of our project. Like I said, our part is basically the diagonal itself. Projects are ongoing or are coming soon for downtown Boulder and downtown Longmont. RTD will go into those some of those in a little bit here in a minute. But you can see we have improvements stretched over the entire length of the corridor. I'll go into a list here on the next slide. So here are major features of work. We will go through with graphics here in a minute. So bear with me as I just go through the list and we'll talk more specifically about them. Highway 52 and 119 will represent a near complete reconstruction, splitting out that intersection to make it similar to 63rd and Niwot. Airport Road will have operational reconfigurations that I'll get into. Culver Street and 119 represents a major area of construction with a partial grade separation. We'll be adding Q bypass lanes at all the intersections and general intersection improvements at all the major signalized intersections. a new park and ride at 63rd and an expanded park and ride at Niwot Road. BRT stations at new BRT stations at 47th, 63rd, Highway 52, and Niwot Road. We are also making some safety improvements at unsignalized intersections. And our commuter bikeway, again, stretching from Boulder to Longmont with grade separated crossings at those major intersections. And then our ITS improvements of fiber backbone along the entire corridor, or at least most of it. Transit signal priority to let buses get ahead of the queues at the signals, and then the adaptive signals that I mentioned earlier. Now we'll get into specifics, a little more specific. Here's our commuter bikeway. Talked about it several times. It's designed to be safe, direct, and accessible. It's separated from the road. It's concrete. It's plowed in the winter. Like I mentioned, grade separated at major intersections. It will have direct connections to BRT stations and existing bike networks, and it's designed to be used by e-bikes and ADA accessible. Next slide. Now we can walk along the corridor and just intersection by intersection. So the first one is J Road. Next slide. The improvements here are shown in black. On these next few slides, improvements will be mostly in black on the roadway. Q bypass lanes there in both directions, and pushing out those existing left turns, so a little bit of extra widening. And our commuter bikeway down the center with an underpass here at J Road. Next slide. Moving up to 63rd, go ahead to the next one. Major improvements here, again with improvements shown in black. Q bypass lanes, transit stops, a large park and ride shown there, and our bikeway again shown down the median with an overpass in this location. Next slide. Highway 52 is next. Go ahead to the next one. You can go back to one here. Our next intersection is Highway 52 and 119. This slide shows the existing configuration. Many of you are probably familiar with that. Keep that in mind as we move to the next slide. Improvements again in black. Intersection shifts to the south a little bit. Couple benefits. We think the intersection works better in this configuration. We've modeled it to work better. A little more independent control on the signals. But another key benefit is building a lot of the improvements offline, outside of traffic, will at least reduce some of the impacts to the traveling public. Not completely eliminate, but at least reduce some of the construction as we build, the southbound 119 and 52 offline as we go along. So a major benefit there. Again, the same type of improvements: Q bypass lanes, transit stops, and the bikeway in the middle with an underpass at this location. Next slide. Niwot Road. Right to the next one. Similar improvements here. Q bypass, transit stops, and an expanded park and ride. These park and rides are likely to be phased in over a period of time. We are also working with Boulder County and Niwot. It's not part of our direct project, but as we design our project, making sure we keep in mind the wishes for a potential future bikeway connection into Niwot under 119 there. So we're working to make sure our design at least doesn't preclude something there in the future. Next slide. So Airport Road is the next one. It's a little more tricky than some of the other ones. The current configuration, the connection through the median is currently 2 lanes of traffic. We're going for safety reasons, really, in operations too. We're going to change that to one-way northbound. the southbound movement trying to make the left-hand turn on the northbound 119 was a high accident rate movement there, and we're potentially making that worse with more volume coming through there. That I don't know if we can click forward on something. Not sure what's going to pop up here. Yeah, the existing traffic that goes southbound at 119 is going to have to you're going to have to go down to Oxford or 83rd to make a big Michigan left U-turn kind of type of thing to head toward Longmont or to get over to Ogallala. I think there's one more click on the slide. Ogallala, we originally had a right-in, right-out. You can go back. We eventually were going to restrict this movement from Ogallala to airport, but based on feedback from previous meetings, we've added this movement back in. And we feel we can do that movement fairly safely. All right, next slide. On the other side of the median there, closer to the creek, another reason to make the change to just one direction is that the bikeway crossing going there will only have to look one direction, so it'll be safer crossing for the people on the commuter bikeway itself. And then we will also be making improvements on those on the turns closer to the creek, like right directly adjacent to the creek, adding raised crosswalks there to provide safer crossing and to highlight the fact that there are crossing there to try to get those cyclists to cross as safely as possible. Next slide. Hover Street. Hover Street is another big one. It is farther behind than the rest of the corridor. The improvements there are based on previous work done by Longmont, based off the Southwest Longmont operations study. This design in the bottom right-hand part of the screen was used to secure a federal RAISE grant in the form of $25 million for this intersection and other parts of the corridor. It originally took southbound or Boulder bound 119 under Hover. Next slide. As we've dug into the design a little bit more, we did find some fatal flaws with that underpass design, unfortunately, namely the existing pedestrian underpass near Oscar Blues. We simply couldn't get the underpass back up to grade in time without rebuilding the entire intersection. So we went through an alternatives analysis, and now we're looking at taking that Boulder bound 119 over Hover in this location. And Longmont is, part of this conversation at the design table with us. We're also investigating the exact location for a pedestrian crossing there north of the intersection. And we don't know for sure if it's over or under as well on that one, but looking for still major improvements here at this intersection. The schedule for this is preliminary design here, early 25, final design-ish, kind of a mid-25, and construction in early 25 here. And go on to the next one. And now we move into the unsignalized intersection improvements, starting with 55th. On the left of the screen, you see our the biggest conflict points. The southbound, southbound 55th trying to cross southbound 119, and vice versa, the northbound 55th trying to cross northbound 119. Those acute angles there cause these movements to have a higher rate of accidents than we would expect. So not a great number of accidents, but based on the volume here, the rate of accidents was higher than should be expected. We originally looked at closing this median connection altogether, getting rid of the 55th connection and doing right-in, right-outs. But after feedback from the community again, and taking a deeper dive into the design, we have determined we can achieve the safety improvements by simply making it a one-way median connection. So there'll be a northbound one-way direction. Southbound will have to go out and around. I'll get there in a second, but the really basically Waterstone neighborhood up there, their travel to and from Boulder will be largely unchanged based on this design. If those folks north of there want to go back to Niwot, you can go to the next slide. They will have to go down to J Road, shown here in red, and make a minor out of direction travel to get turned back around, going the right direction. We do feel that will be a much safer movement and worth the out of direction travel. Monarch Road has a very similar issue to 55th. It's just much worse, actually. This is actually one of, if not the highest accident rates or accident locations on the entire corridor. Due to the volume of accidents, we were really unable to employ a similar solution to 55th, and we are moving to eliminate this crossing altogether. You will no longer be able to cross 119 at this location. It'll be right in, right out. If you're turning right into Niwot off of 119 or turning right back out from Niwot to go north, you'll be able to do those movements still. But to do larger movements, to change direction, you'll have to go up to Niwot or down to 52 to make those movements in the future. Next slide. Now we move into more minor treatments, still serious issues, but more minor treatments here at Oxford and 83rd. More signing, improved vision, improved sight distance, or improved, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, improved stopping, improved stop signs here to try to just alert people, to remind people that it is a stop condition. We're also extending those decel lanes coming into those turns to just give people more chance to slow down and make the maneuvers more safely. And then the next slide is Fordham. Fordham Street really is a paint a restriping effort here. It's a 2-lane northbound connection there. We'll remove that and replace it with a 1-lane each direction configuration to try to eliminate any confusion there, trying to cross northbound. And with that, I think that's it for the roadway improvements specifically. I'll hand it over to Ali with RTD.
Thank you, Dan. This is Ali Mansapai. I'm the project manager for RTD on this project. Next slide, please. So this is another version of the project overview slide that Dan showed earlier. The focus here is, so what was shown was the safety and mobility bikeway project, which is the trunk portion of the project, and what RTD will be doing, implementing 2 patterns, the orange and blue patterns of the BRT route that extend beyond the limits of the safety, mobility, and bikeway project, going into the cities of Boulder and Longmont. The red circles that you see are the planned BRT stops within those cities that were based on the planning and environmental and linkages study that was finalized in 2019 actually. And those stops were planned based on lots of discussions with our partners on this project, and were identified to be at the locations that you see. A small caveat down below where it says CU East Campus. Currently, there is a study underway by the city of Boulder to see if orange pattern could be slightly rerouted on the southern terminus, if you will, to pick up CU main campus as well. And the other big addition that we're implementing in the future, as soon as we get the land for it, is the park and ride at Park Ridge that you see on the top right of the slide off of Highway 66 and US 287 near the Walmart shopping center. The planned parking rides on the trunk, as you see, those are identified as P at Niwot Road and 63rd, and then at Mineral Road / IBM Drive. We have BRT stations as well as platforms, but no parking right there. And then with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Natalie to talk about the timeline of the BRT project and service planning. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ali. Good evening, everyone. My name is Natalie Huntlos. I am the Senior Service Planner and Scheduler for RTD's North team within Service Development. And I am the project manager for the service planning and scheduling part of this project. Ali is the engineering project manager. Wanted to show you this timeline so that you can get an idea of how many projects we're coordinating with our partners in order to complete the overall bus rapid transit project. As you can see, it's quite extensive. For RTD, again, there is the BRT design and then the service development design, and then the coordinated construction between both teams. City of Boulder also has several projects that will help make this BRT project much more successful. I don't know if anybody from City of Boulder is on and wants to fill in on any of these, but otherwise we'll just go next slide. This next slide. Great. Ali mentioned this just a little bit. We have two patterns that emerged out of the PEL. The blue pattern, which pretty much is what the Bolt pattern is currently. It will be the main pattern that will operate from the north end of Longmont. Weekdays, it's currently set to start operations at 30 minutes all day bi-directional. That's for opening day. Saturday, Sunday, holiday, 60 minutes all day bi-directional. Depending on resources which we might have available, we can look and see. We will have conversations with our stakeholders as we move forward. We'll figure out if we can increase that frequency for opening day. The orange pattern is pretty much what Route J used to operate. Route J currently is still suspended, but it is to come back within the Highway 119 BRT. It would also operate from the north end of Longmont. And then within Boulder, currently, as Ali mentioned, that routing is under review through a study with the City of Boulder, but it is set to operate weekdays at 30-minute peak frequency bi-directional. Again, if anybody from City of Boulder is on and they want to fill in because it is their study, let us know. Guys, next slide. Just to let you know what our next steps are as we move forward from the service development side. We're looking to finalize the orange route pattern in September with the stakeholders. Again, this is led by City of Boulder. Then internal and external local agencies and stakeholder meetings will occur between November 24 into about March of 25. That allows us to identify every detail that we want to move forward with into public outreach as it comes to service span, service levels, the stations, the stops, the routings, frequencies, all of that. Then looking to have the public outreach along the corridor in late spring, early summer of 2025. And with input then received from the public, we will go ahead and draft the service plan in fall of 2025. We will reevaluate that service plan based on resources available for opening day in late spring, early summer 2026. The final service plan will be put together and put through public process in fall of 2026. Will be finalized in fall of 2026 so that we can put it through the process with the February 2027 public hearings for a May 2027 service change implementation. And that is our anticipated opening date based upon all completion of infrastructure from the previous slide or 2 slides back. So there are all these other projects that need to be coordinated, and we need to have all the infrastructure in place before we can truly operate this BRT service in a smooth and efficient manner. And with that, I will hand it over to Stacy with Boulder County. Thanks.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, my name is Stacy Proctor and I'm the project manager for Boulder County for the design of the bikeway project. And Dan went over a little bit of the details about what the bikeway will look like as part of this project, but we've had a couple of changes in the design recently that some people may have heard about, but many others haven't. So we wanted to give you a quick update about that, and we will have some poll questions, so you can get your voting finger ready for that in a few minutes. But the couple of updates, basically both of these were related to a water line that we discovered during our final design phase that we decided to avoid. So the two changes are that we're looking at realigning the bikeway at the south end near 4 Mile Canyon Creek, between 4 Mile Canyon Creek and J Road, and we're adding a low water bridge. We'll get into a little bit more detail about what that looks like. And then we're also looking at, we're planning to replace what we were planning to do as an underpass under 63rd Street and changing that to an overpass in the same location. So as I mentioned, both of those changes are due to the water transmission line that we found. And basically these updates will save the project over $6 million and avoid a year-long delay in construction at least. And so we decided that that was the best opportunity or the best choice moving forward. Next slide. So as I mentioned, 4 Mile Canyon Creek, if you're familiar with this area, it's basically in between 47th and the railroad tracks. It's the 4 Mile Canyon Creek Trail. And basically where you see the people standing in this picture is where we will put a low water bridge crossing the creek. And then that will basically put us into the median of 119. It avoids the water line, and it also avoids the need for an additional underpass, which is a significant cost savings to the project. On the bottom left, you can see basically what it'll sort of look like immediately north of the low water bridge. You'll be sort of walls on either side will be lower down. And then as we move north, 300 feet north, we'll be back up at ground level. So we're working through the design of this, and we'll definitely have opportunities for input, but that's the plan moving forward for that one. Next slide. This is an example of a low water bridge. I think there's a lot of people conjure up in their mind what they think of with that. So wanted to share what it kind of looks like. Basically, it's a simple crossing without railings and minimize the floodplain impacts, and due to just the constraints in that area, that this is really the design that will work. And then the 63rd Street Bikeway overpass, as you can see here, the 24-inch water line is across there, directly crossing over where we had planned to do an underpass. So we're moving forward with doing an overpass, and basically it'll be the same footprint or very similar footprint to what the underpass was, just above ground instead of underground. Next slide. So this is the current view if you're going south on 119, approaching 63rd. And then this is sort of a simulation of an overpass concept. It's not a specific design by any means. It was just trying to get an idea of what an overpass would look and feel like in this area. So as we get to the voting portion of the program here, it might be good just to kind of look at this picture, kind of remind yourself what this looks like if you're not familiar with it, and that might help you think through kind of what you'd like the bikeway overpass to look like. So next slide. So as I mentioned, I think, we really want the bikeway overpass to look great in addition to being functional and safe. And so we're going to be working with a landscape architect to come up with 3 design concepts. And once we get those design concepts, we'll come back to the community to get input on those and decide what to move forward with. But first, we wanted to take the opportunity tonight to get some initial direction from people to see what you might be interested in seeing, so that can help shape those 3 design concepts. So this is our first question. We're really looking at what can we kind of look at as a theme for the overpass. And so in a minute, the poll question will pop up, but I wanted to kind of talk about the theme options that that we're considering. And you can see them here in this photo. And just another note, these are just examples of a style of a bridge, not a specific example of something that we would want, that we're specifically considering, just kind of the style of a bridge, of an overpass. So I'll talk through a little bit more what each of these mean in terms of materials, colors, and what that style might look like, and then we'll open up the poll in a couple minutes. So the first option we have is Colorado Historic. And so a Colorado Historic bike overpass might feature weathered steel for a rusted look and exposed concrete with visible texture. It would be utilitarian with minimal finishing, natural gray and brown tones, and industrial style details similar to many historic bridges in Colorado. And before you'll get to vote for your top 3. So think as I'm going through this, think about the 3 that you like the most. And then number 2 is rustic or earthy. And a rustic or earthy bridge would create a harmonious blend with the surrounding environment. It might feature natural materials like locally sourced timber, complemented by stone or rock. And the color palette could include warm, rich tones of wood and muted grays or browns of natural stone. The third option is Front Range Modern. So Front Range Modern overpass could use sleek powder-coated steel or other clear plastic elements that resemble glass for a contemporary look. Materials might include brick or stone. Colors might be black or dark gray steel with gray and brown accents. And it's sort of a blend of rustic, earthy, and Colorado Historic. The fourth option is traditional. And a traditional bike overpass could feature classic materials like colored concrete and brick. It could include earthy color palette with red and brown, complemented by beige or tan colors, and blending in with the surrounding rural or traditional architecture. Number 5 is clean and simple, and that might feature smooth, unadorned surfaces and a streamlined design, white concrete or similar color for a sleek, minimalistic look. And then the last option is the bold, architectural elegant, and this bike overpass would create an iconic architectural statement. The color palette could blend black, silver, and metallic hues, or a pop of color like red or blue, emphasizing the bridge's modern and artistic design. So between the pictures and the descriptions, think about what you think you'd like to see us do the design concepts on, and we'll go ahead and open up the poll and give people a few minutes to choose. So as a reminder, select your top 3, and you can scroll down into the to see all 6 options.
And I'll give it a couple seconds here for people to submit their answers, and I'll show the responses and where we're headed. Awesome. I see quite a few of you participating. Thank you so much.
And one thing I'll mention as people are doing this, if you're having technical difficulties or you can't decide, we do have an online survey that's open as well. So we'll include the link to that in the chat. So if you aren't able to respond here, or we also have a lot more questions in our online survey. So you're welcome to respond here and do the survey. And there's more opportunity for kind of open-end responses, but we thought it'd be interesting to see what the folks here thought. So.
Okay. We got almost everyone, got 64 responses. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and present the results. It looks like Front Range Modern came in at 73%, and then close to it, Historic Colorado at 67%, and then Rustic Earthy at 55%.
Great. Yes, so thank you so much for participating in that. And again, as I mentioned, we have an open survey with these questions, similar questions to this, plus some others. And then we'll come up with 3 design concepts kind of based on those, and there'll be additional opportunities for input. And then the second poll that we have here, you can see kind of the questions on the screen now, but we have, there's trade-offs with anything. And so, and kind of goals or directions that we can head. So this is maybe a little bit more theoretical question, but we're going to ask you to kind of rank these potential goals for the bikeway overpass. So the first would be integration with surroundings. So this would be if you really think it's important that the bikeway should complement and enhance its surroundings and sort of blend in with nearby features. There's also the second option would be a landmark creation, that making the bikeway overpass should be designed to create a landmark or gateway feature. So something that's distinctive and recognizable. The third would be cultural expression, that the bikeway overpass should reflect the culture, history, or identity through design elements, decorations, or public art. Striking design, that the overpass should make a statement and really stand out. And then there's also focus on functionality, that I don't have a preference for how the overpass looks as long as it's functional. So the poll kind of gives you the option to respond how important each of these goals are to you. So if you want to go ahead and launch the poll, Katie, so you can kind of see that you can say that you can make sure you scroll over. There's least important, low importance, neutral, most important, and then most important. So there's 5 options for each of those goals. So you can kind of click and see, are you neutral, least important, how you feel about each of those goals.
Again, I'll give you all maybe a minute for this one to respond. Great, I see about half of you have already responded. Thank you so much. Give it another few seconds here. I still see some results coming through, so I'll give it just a little bit longer.
And maybe while we're waiting, I did see a comment about what are the cost differences for the various overpass themes, and we don't have cost difference yet. I think really what we're looking at is what is the look and feel, and then we can design an overpass to be, sort of within our budget that we have. So I think everything we've shared, we feel that we can build something within that theme that would meet our cost goals.
Okay, so these are our results. It looks like the integration with surroundings was the most important. Coming in close to second was focus on functionality. and then cultural expression. And then you could see the rest here.
Yeah.
Less important to low importance as well.
Okay, yeah, this is really helpful. I really appreciate everyone's input on this, and it's great to kind of see where people are thinking. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so yeah, just thank you so much for your input. Happy to answer any questions about these changes to the bikeway. And then just as I've mentioned, we're developing 3 design concepts, and we'll be coming back for another round of feedback in the fall, likely an in-person public meeting. And then, yeah, feel free to take the survey, send that survey to your friends, share that as much as you can. We're trying to get responses in the next few days so that we can start moving forward with getting the concepts together. So thanks, and I think that's me turning it, now I turn it back to Dan, so thank you.
All right, thanks. We'll go through construction impacts here. But first, project funding. I'm going to go through this one real fast. This project is a result of a very large effort in trying to secure all the funding that we needed. Many people, many groups have contributed to the project. CDOT, RTD, Boulder County, and Longmont all have direct funds contributed to the project. Boulder County was responsible for most, if not all, of the DRCOG federal grants. As DRCOG distributes federal money across the state and through grant opportunities. So Boulder County was able to get those for us. So we had our RAISE grant from the federal government of $25 million, and then another CDOT grant for $2 million. So, I mean, all told, we're at $165 million in construction or in total funding, and our estimated construction costs right now, construction and I guess it's just pre-construction. So all of our costs are $165 million. So we're right on budget, and working to maintain that budget still at this time. Maybe some creative solutions still to come to try to stay within that budget. So now we can move on to the next slide and the construction update. The timeline for construction is that it's coming up soon. We're looking hopefully in September, a month from now, into maybe early October to start a majority of the work along the corridor. Improvements at J, some minor improvements at 63rd, not the big project, but the full job at 52 at Niwot underpass at the north end of the project, getting into Longmont, being back out of the median, and then work at those unsignalized intersections, as well as the bikeway itself connecting to many of these points and in between. Then before summer, let's say spring of 25, we're going to start 63rd in earnest, like the full build out there and the connection at 4 Mile Canyon Creek. And then Hover itself should begin constructions hopefully in early 26, with an estimated total construction of 24 to 30 months, targeting the kind of the end of 26 as our wrap up date, or maybe early 27. We will have plenty of traditional road or lane closures and lane shifts as part of any regular kind of construction project. But a couple of closures we wanted to bring your attention to was for the underpass construction at J Road and at Niwot Road. Traditional construction measures here would dictate multiple months of phased construction, shifting J and Niwot back and forth around that construction, with pretty heavy duty impacts to the traveling public. Our anticipated approach right now is to go with an accelerated construction on those to limit those impacts, limit the heavy impacts to a short time. We're looking at a 7-day full closure for each one of those, to come in and punch that underpass through and at least temporarily pave back over the top to get the road back open within that 7-day window. We know this approach will save money. It will save impacts on the traveling public, and it will give us a better product too. It gives us time to just get in there without traffic. We're looking at late 24, sometime, late fall or very early winter of 24. We will provide more information as we get closer, and detours will be provided at that point in time. Another full closure we'll be looking at is more for the IBM Drive area there. We will have to close IBM Drive it'll be a longer duration, several months probably, to rebuild that access and rebuild that southbound 119 in that location. Detours will be provided there also, probably down to 63rd if a signal is desired, or up to Monarch. So I believe that's it, Katie, and I can turn it back over to you to wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. So before we open it up to Q&A, just a quick overview of how you can stay engaged in this project. We have the various different websites, one on CDOT's website, RTD's website, and then specifically for Bikeway on Boulder County's website. These are also the contacts for the project, the general project mailbox here, and Alexandra's email for the Bikeway. And again, on CDOT's website, you can sign up to receive project email updates. You were also asked when you registered for this event if you wanted to receive updates. So if you said yes to that, we'll get you added to the distribution list. And don't forget to take that Bikeway survey that I have posted in the chat. So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up to questions and answers. You'll see that there have been 5 questions so far that have been answered. So if you wanted to take a look at those, see what the questions were and what the answers were, you can do that by clicking the Q&A feature and then going to the answered questions. We have 6 open questions, so I'll just run down the line of these. The first question is, can we hear more about how this is safe for people that are walking and using transit, specifically at the 63rd and Niawot road stops? Moving the RTD lanes internally has doubled the amount of people crossing over lanes that people drive at a speed limit of 55, but most times 65 plus is not uncommon. So I'll pass this over to Ali and at RTD if you want to start with the response.
So there are going to be some timing improvements for crossing, for pedestrians crossing the crosswalk to get from either side of the highway to the parking right that is planned to be in the median of Colorado 119. That actually makes it a much safer way to get on and off the bus. And then with those timing changes or improvements, we think that it's going to be a lot safer than the current situation that the bolt stops are on the sides of the street. I believe one of my colleagues may have something to add to it too, either Carl or Steven.
Hey, Ali. Oh, first, yeah, if you can hear me, this is Carl with Muller Engineering. Second part of that question was about the number of people accessing the bus stop. The amount of crossing of lanes would double having to go into the median. But if somebody's making a round trip to either Boulder or Longmont from, say, Niawot, they would have no lanes to cross if the stop stayed on the shoulder side in one direction, but they would have both directions to cross in their return trip. With the median, they have essentially one direction to cross in both times. So it really doesn't increase the amount of lanes crossing by placing the bus stops in the median. It really stays the same. In both cases, we are expecting that ridership would increase with these proposed improvements. So we anticipate that there will be more crossings in general. but placing the bus stops in the median does not really change the amount of lanes that are crossed for a typical round trip transit user.
Thank you, Carl.
Wonderful. So we have a question from Mark Wood. What's being done to improve e-bike cycling safety on this new bike highway? Great to have a new path between Boulder and Longmont. What about advising e-bikers about 15 miles per hour and respecting rules and etiquette of using multi-use paths? How will signage be handled? I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Mark to respond to. Or Carl, sorry, it's Mark's question. I'll hand it over to Carl.
Alexander, would you like me to go ahead and respond?
Sure, actually, and then I can add to it. Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Sure. So yeah, we had talked a lot about e-bikes, and we expect, more and more usage as people start to ride e-bikes more and more. One of our key design parameters, which I think was mentioned earlier in the presentation, was to make the bikeway as safe as possible. We've designed the bikeway to have good sight distance, gentle curvature, so that we are recognizing that there can be a speed differential, not just between e-bikes and regular riders, but just riders in general. There often are speed differential. So we've taken a lot of effort to make sure that the geometry of the bikeway, the curvature, is as forgiving as possible. We have shoulders on the side to make sure that there's safe conditions and not big drop-offs. So we've done a lot to try to provide a safe environment as possible. However, we do recognize that there will be higher speeds. This is a commuter bikeway. We really want to encourage people to use it to commute longer distances and to hopefully get people out of their cars and into their bikes. So, our design speed actually that we've designed for is 25 miles per hour on this facility. And we do anticipate that this facility will have a much higher percentage of bicyclists and a lower percentage of pedestrians than other multi-use paths that you might see around within the cities of Longmont or Boulder. But that was an intentional decision we've made to try to make this attractive, but also building in safety measures to make it as safe as possible. Alexander, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, thank you, Carl. I think you covered it completely. Thank you.
Okay, you'll see as well, there have been more answered questions that were typed out. If you all want to take a look and see if any of your questions were the ones that were responded to, or if you wanted to know the answer to someone else's questions, you could take a look there. Let's see. I'm looking at, sorry, they're jumbling around here. So is there any consideration for roads that feed into crossroads? Dan, I'll start with you on that one. And we could also provide an answer at a later date if
Yeah, I was trying to find, so we are, that's question specifically is about 51st and J. We don't have any specific improvements planned for that location. I don't think our project will make that situation worse. It's not going to make it much better, but there's no specific plans for very much outside of the current right of way, I guess is the answer.
Great. Thank you. Looks like some of the panelists are responding to several of the questions as we speak. Another question that rolled through is, will there be northbound and southbound designed lanes on the bike paving, such as a painted center line or directional arrows? Stacy, or I'll hand it to you.
Sorry, can you tell me which question were you on?
Will there be northbound, southbound designated lanes on the bike paving?
Not generally speaking. I think that in the more congested areas, the areas where you expect more traffic, such as around the transit stations, we are looking at having a painted center line. Correct me, I think that's right. Correct, Carl?
Mhm.
Yeah, that is correct, and that's, I think, consistent with most other bikeways around the metro area as well. That's something that could be added in the future if needed, but for this particular design and the construction package, we're not planning to add them other than the areas that Stacy mentioned.
Great. And then the next question, why was option 3A determined to be the option for an underpass access to Niwot based on 19 individuals? 17 individuals supported option 2 and 8 supported option 1. There are 4,300 citizens in Niwot. Good question. I'll hand that over to Stacy.
Yeah, sure, I can answer that. And not everyone may be aware of the what that question is referring to. So the Boulder County Board of County Commissioners directed the county staff to look at a underpass option that would connect the park and ride at Niwot to Second Avenue in Niwot that would go underneath the northbound 119 lanes. And so we have been looking at 3 different alternative alignments for that. And based on community input and also other factors such as safety, cost, and maintenance, county staff felt that the option 3A, which basically was it's hard to describe without the picture, but basically was a more direct connection to the bikeway, and then had kind of a spur that connected to the park and ride. That option made the most sense. I know that the Niwot Lid has some other thoughts about that, so we're continuing to work with them. And so we don't necessarily have a complete direction forward, but we're still continuing to work on that.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. So it looks like we only have one more question. All the others, so far 21 of them have been responded to, and there's some comments that we noted and dismissed as questions.
80, I can probably answer the 119 versus 57 now. I think that highway has different issues, and those are crossover issues largely on that corridor. And I'd say CDOT is working on at least the planning stages of a project to address crossovers on 287. So this is a different type of issue. I don't know the exact numbers. I think 119 has a higher frequency of accidents. But CDOT is working to address issues on 287 separately. So I think it's just 2 different animals here.
Great, thank you, Dan. Let's see, we have a comment from Peggy. We hope you continue to work with Niwot Local Improvement District. Of course, I see Stacy shaking her head or nodding her head. Okay. And then any chance of making speed limit on the diagonal 55 only rather than 55 then 65?
I can start with that one. This is Dan. Changing the speed limits is pretty tricky. It involves studying current speeds to help set that. There's a little more wiggle room. In the past, it was what 85th percentile of what the traffic is actually going right now. So lowering speed limits really was pretty hard to do. We have a little more wiggle room now where there's some context sensitivity that can be added in there, but I don't foresee getting an approved speed limit lower, and we are not pursuing that measure right now at this time.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Let's see. We got a comment. Thank you. Let's get this done in my lifetime at least. I agree, William. Love that. So one question came through. So Iris will be handled even more traffic with all these improvements, both bike and cars. Do you think that? Sorry, I'm a bit confused by that question.
I'll take that one.
Okay.
Iris is a city of Boulder project. So but I guess what they're saying is, maybe I spoke too soon, that you can go from 119 and eventually into Iris. But they're both offering more options for more modes of travel.
Alexandra, this is
Oh, Jean, thank
Jean
you.
with the City of Boulder too, and I just wanted to share that yes, that's absolutely true. And all of the options that we're have been considering for the Iris Avenue transportation improvements have considered all of the expected traffic volumes and bicycle and pedestrian activity, particularly bicycle activity that would be coming to and from the CO 119 corridor. So we've incorporated that into our alternatives as well as our staff recommendation for improvements to Iris.
Great. Thank you, Jean.
Yeah, I hope that helps.
All right. One last question, and we might actually wrap up early tonight. Oh, looks like we got two. Will this new bikeway become accessible for the public in segments? If so, which will be ready first?
Yeah, this is Dan. I would say that no, we were planning on having the entire bikeway open, in that late 26, early 27 timeframe. I believe I'm correct, because the bikeway team can correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct, Dan.
Yeah. That's just to keep people out of harm's way and to allow a contractor to phase it piecemeal if they want to, whatever they think is more efficient to build it at the cheapest rate, most efficient rate.
Great,
Actually, if I
thank you.
could add to that real quickly, another issue with that is we're not going to be opening the bikeway until it's fully completed, because it would leave you at a space in the bikeway where you actually couldn't access another road because of the way we're building the bikeway. So please be patient. We're working on it and we'll get it open, fully open when it's ready.
Great, thank you. So one follow-up question to the previous question. So when closing Jay and Niawat, will there be any use of Colorado 119 be available?
Yeah, 119 itself will remain open north and southbound, Boulder bound and Longmont bound, as it be those crossing movements on Jay and Niawat that will be restricted, and we'll have we'll have detours planned through county roads as opposed to highway. We'll use as much of the state highway system for the main advertised detours as we can. It's kind of hard on those smaller roads, but we are working with Boulder County engineers to try to get their input on the safest detours on county roads for those short periods of time.
Great, thanks, Dan. And then more of a comment that I think you need to consider this from I-25 to Boulder with current volume and crash data. That is, this project really is focusing on the diagonal, but I wanted to open up to our panelists to see if they had anything else to add there.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure of the question. I guess, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't think there's anything more to add there.
Okay. And then why would the gun barrel shuttle need additional parking at the park and rides? Will the shuttles be parked there usually? Ali, would that be your a
Yeah, I
question
can
for you?
try. I wasn't sure about gun barrel shuttle needing additional parking at parking rides. I don't know how that question was posed, but their plan, for what I understand, is for the gun barrel shuttle to access the 63rd parking ride, basically as part of the first and final miles, one of the first and final mile measures. So whether
Yeah, we wouldn't anticipate people really to park at 63rd to use the gun barrel shuttle. It would be more for people to take the gun barrel shuttle to 63rd to connect to the bolt, but there should be enough parking available either way. So the numbers that would come from the shuttle would not anticipate, to be large enough that they would cause any issues regarding the parking.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you. Okay, there are no more questions, which means we are going to wrap up early this evening so you all can get back to your dinner, your friends, your family. Thank you all so much for participating. Again, visit the website to sign up for project email updates, and then don't forget to take the Bikeway survey. We'll be sending out a follow-up email to those registered to this once this webinar is posted online, so you will have the presentation there as well. Great. Thank you all so much and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Yeah.